Hi, this is Mike from Street Moto Z, and today we're going to be changing the spark plugs on this beautiful Ninja ZX-6R. I'm going to take you through every step of the way. We're going to be using these spark plugs. They're called Laser Iridium Premium by NGK. And the part number is CR9EIA-9. So let's get started. We're going to be servicing this 2023 Ninja ZX-6R, otherwise known as a 636. The service interval for the air cleaner element is every 24 months or 15.2 thousand miles, and the service interval for the spark plug is every 12 months or 7.6 thousand miles, whichever comes first. This Ninja ZX-6R is at 7.8 thousand miles and needs new spark plugs. I will replace the spark plugs and clean the air filter. Here are the tools I'm going to use to replace the spark plugs and clean the air filter. I've got a set of socket Allen wrenches, some Allen wrenches. This is a 5/8 inch spark plug socket. It's a specific type socket with some foam inside. Got a large socket. These are the small Allen wrench sockets I used. It's a 3, a 4, and a 5 millimeter. I've got a 10 millimeter wrench. I've got some small, medium, and large ratchets with extensions. Got a breaker bar, some pliers, also some needle nose pliers. This is the type of Loctite that I'm using. It's called 222. It's kind of a light Loctite. I don't like to use red. I've got a piece of 2x4, some Phillips and common screwdrivers, neoprene gloves, a drill with Phillips, some rags, some metric sockets, some tape, petroleum jelly, scissors, a siphon, and a gas can. Step 1. Remove most of the gas from the gas tank. This will help you lift the gas tank off the motorcycle, which we will do a little bit later. You don't have to pull all of the gas out of the tank, but most of it will help. Here I'm using a siphon, and I'm siphoning the gas into the gas tank, and I'm getting a good bit of it, most of it out. Step 2, remove the steering dampener. If you don't have a steering dampener, remove the top 2 bolts that hold the tank onto the frame. Here I have a steering dampener, and it's a little bit more work if you have one of those. I have to use this big breaker bar and disconnect the steering dampener. It's not the end of the world, just a few more steps along the way. I got the steering dampener off. Now these are the top 2 bolts that I'm removing, and that's the last of the 2. Step 3, remove the seat and disconnect the battery. It's good to have the battery disconnected here because we're going to be messing with the tank. There is a fuel pump inside the tank, and we're dealing with gas. We just don't want any sparks or ignition going on. Step 4, remove the fairings below the tank. There is a fairing on each side. You need to start near the seat and work your way forward. There are hooks and there's some Velcro. First of all, you really should remove this bolt first. Up top, I'm doing this side correctly. Once you remove this bolt, start near the seat and pull outward. Now at the very top of the fairing near the handlebars, there's a hook that hooks, and you need to pull the fairing back toward the seat to unhook that hook. You can see all the Velcro pieces and the hook at the very top. Step 5, remove 2 rubber hose fittings on the rear of the tank. These are very small fittings. No gas will come out of this. I believe these are air fittings. But there's a little wire that you have to remove off first and then try to pull the hose off. Be gentle with it and be careful with it. And now for the other side, going to work that hose off of that metal fitting that's on the tank. Step 6, disconnect the servo buddy wire. It is near the seat, near the tank, and you just use that common screwdriver to loosen it and pull it loose. Step 7, remove the tank hinge bolt. You can also swing your tank up, but I like to get the tank out of the way for the work that we're going to do today. So you can use a 10mm socket or a 10mm open wrench to get that out. Step 8, disconnect the fuel line under the tank. Lift the tank up with a 2x4. Use a small common screwdriver to pull that clip down. You see the red clip? Once the clip's pulled down, then you can pull the hose off of the fuel line. Step 9, remove the tank and place it on a towel or a soft place. You don't want to damage anything on the bottom of the tank. Step 10, disconnect the two hoses on the back of the air filter. There's a large one and a very small one. Just use a pair of pliers to pull the clamps back and pull the hoses off of there. Step 11, remove the bolt at the top of the air filter. It's holding some other lines down, and just get that bolt removed. Step 12, loosen the throttle body clamp bolts on each side of the airbox with 5 or 7 turns. This is an Allen wrench. It goes through the hole in the side of the frame, and you may need to guide it a little bit. Just loosen it up. Step 12, disconnect the airbox wire and take the top off the airbox. The wire is pretty easy to remove, just a little thumb push and a pull. And there's 8 screws to unscrew here. You can do it by hand. I use the drill because it's a lot faster. There's also one in that center hole. There it is. Going to get it now. And unscrew that screw and take all those and put them aside. Then take the top off. Step 13, take off the air filter and clean it. Now you can get access to the air filter, pull it out, clean it. Step 14, lift off the airbox and disconnect the bottom air hose from the airbox. You want to lift up from each one of the corners and kind of wiggle it down close to the seat, and it'll get the rubber boots off of the throttle body, and then disconnect that hose. Step 15, make sure the bottom airbox throttle body clamp bolts are attached and loose and ready for reinstallation. Just make sure those bolts are connected into the nuts that are part of the throttle body clamp mechanisms on each side. Step 16, remove the wires from all 4 coil packs. They're easy to remove. You just push that little tab on the top close to the wires and pull them off. Step 17, for all 4 cylinders, remove the coil pack, remove the old spark plug, insert the new spark plug, and insert the lubed coil pack. Pulling the coil pack off takes a lot of muscle. There is a tool for removing it. You might want to get one of those, but there it is. I just pulled it. Clean it off. There could be some old crusty stuff on it. Now I'm going in for the old spark plug. It just pops loose, and then you can hand unscrew it. Should come right out. It didn't, so I used a magnet to get it out. And there's the old plug. You can see some rust on it. Here's the new plug, and I placed that in the spark plug socket, put it down in there, and I unscrewed just a little bit and then screw it down, hand tightening till it gets to the point. And once I put this on, I go 1/5 of a turn. That's 1/5 of a turn just to make sure it's tight. Here I'm putting dielectric grease around the outside of the coil pack, so it should go down on the spark plug, and once you push it down, you'll feel a pop, kind of like a knuckle on your hand popping. Do this for all 4 spark plugs. Step 18, attach the wires to all 4 coil packs. Step 19, install the airbox. I'll talk you through it. Make sure it's nice and clean. Fit the airbox in there. And you're going to have to push down to get the rubber boots over the throttle bodies, all 4 of them. Install the thick and the small air hoses on the back of the airbox. Once you get them pushed down there really good, there is a metal crimping device that you have to slide over to hold the hoses in place. The small crimping device is kind of hard to get to and hard to maneuver with. Here I'm getting the larger of the two. There, that one's in place, and then the small one's kind of hard to get. It's kind of hard to push that hose on there too and keep it on there really well. This little hose I'm having some difficulty with. It's wanting to come off, so I'm having to push it all the way up to the neck of the fitting on the back of the airbox here. And once I get it in place, there's this small little wire that hooks over it and holds it in place. I use some needle nose to get that in place. Now the two hoses on the back of the airboxes are connected, the large and small. They are clamped in place. Now we want to clamp the rubber boots onto the throttle body. There's an Allen wrench here guided onto the bolt, and tighten it in place. Hand tighten. Don't over tighten this, just get it nice and snug. I did the left side, and then there's one on the right side. There's a hole in the side of the frame which helps you aim your Allen wrench to reach the bolt. Now we're clamping the right two throttle bodies. Hand tighten this Allen wrench and clamp the airbox on the throttle bodies. Screw in the top bolt of the airbox, making sure that some of the brake and throttle cables are in place under the bracket. Now put your brand new air filter or the air filter that you've cleaned in place. Put the top of the airbox on. Route the wire that goes on the top of the airbox. And put the screw in the center of the airbox. And there are 7 other screws around the outside of the airbox that you can put in. I went ahead and got that one in the upper right before connecting the wire. Once I put that screw in, then the wire could connect and it wouldn't be in the way. These need to be a little bit snug, and you don't want to over tighten them. Step 20, install the gas tank. I'll talk you through this also. Bring the gas tank over and place it in place over the airbox. There's a couple of rubber hoses in the back of the gas tank close to the seat that will need to go in. As I was putting that side in, I noticed there was a slight split in the hose. So what I'm going to do, I have enough extra hose there. I'm going to cut the tip of that off and get that split removed. I may have to replace that hose in the future. But I cut the tip of it off, and now I'm going to slide that hose into place. Got it slid all the way on there. There's a little metal wire that fits over it that holds it in place. I just move that in place. Now the left side, I'm working the hose onto where it needs to go and moving the metal wire in place to hold that in place. I'm putting in the hinge bolt for the tank. I believe that's 10 millimeter. Just using a socket to tighten it in place. Connecting the servo buddy wire. Now we want to get the fuel line connected. It should be really easy. Just slide the fuel line over where it's supposed to go. Once it's in place, you push the red clip to lock it in place. Step 21, install both fairings that are under the tank. Install the very front part first. There's a little clip that needs to fit forward. And then once it's in place, you have everything pushed in place. There's a small screw that goes in place right here with an Allen wrench. We'll do the same on this side. Make sure you hook the front end first. That hook I pointed out right there. So the hook, you push it forward and then push everything against the motorcycle. There's a few clips and a few Velcro pieces that need to go in place. Two of the Velcro pieces came loose from the fairing and I had to re-glue them off the camera before putting the fairings back on. And here I'm putting the bolt in the fairing. Step 22, install the steering dampener, or if you don't have one, install the two bolts at the top of the tank. I have a steering dampener and I wouldn't want to ride this bike without one because I've seen too many tank slaps happen on a ZX-6R and a ZX-10. Here I'm screwing in the two bolts. And those are in place. I used Loctite on these. Again, I used Loctite 222, which is a very light version of Loctite. See me putting Loctite here. I don't want the steering dampener coming loose. We're putting the large bolt in place in the center of the tree. There's a bolt that goes on the shock. I use some Loctite on it also. We're going to have to crank down that large bolt and get it pretty tight. I'm sure there's a torque specification for this. I don't think it's as critical since I'm using Loctite, but I have it pretty snug now. I'm putting in the quad lock device in the stem. Step 23, connect the battery cables and install the registration bag and the seat. Battery cables are pretty easy to connect. Just tighten the screws. I usually always connect the negative or the black last. And when taking them off, I take off the black first. Here's the registration bag. It just has some goodies and some information in it, and pushing the seat on. Step 24, add the gas back in the tank and start her up. All right, here we go. Fingers crossed. Hopefully everything went in right. It felt like it did. Listen up. Oh, that is music to my ears. Woo! And she is done. 2 thumbs up. Holy smokes. Please like and subscribe. Hope you like the video.